Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. It's the middle of the week, but I would argue that there is still no bigger story in all of college football than what's going on at Bama. Now, to be clear, want to be fair, does not mean that the season's over, that the program is dead, that everything's dying. But at the same time, we also have to acknowledge what our eyes see. It's not just 2 losses in the last 3 games. By the way, Neyland Stadium with 100,000 people in it ain't an easy place to play, okay? It's not just that. It is, as we discussed on Sunday, it's not just the style of play or how it's going down. It's the fact that everything that this program was built on under Nick Saban appears to be disappearing. Not the on-the-field results or plays or schemes or whatever, but instead the discipline, the accountability. We talked about Nick Saban's process and how it feels like that is just slowly slipping through the fingertips of all things Alabama football. So Alabama football, it is reeling. I mean, let's call a spade a spade. They're 5-2. What is it? The first time in forever that they've had 2 losses before the month of October is out. And everyone's looking for answers. And the one thing I would also say, everybody's looking for what Nick Saban thinks about this. And it's interesting because Nick Saban, even though he's in the media, I was thinking about this. I don't really feel like outside of College Game Day on Saturday and Pat McAfee's show on whatever day it is, Friday afternoon, we don't really hear a lot from Nick Saban. And so what's interesting to me is whenever he speaks, whatever he says, by the time he says it, it doesn't really, make waves kind of on the internet and in that world, because by the time he says it, games get played, whatever. We all move on very quickly. I think the only thing he's really said of note is the Vanderbilt stuff, whatever. Well, I bring it up because Monday, he was speaking at the Tuscaloosa I think it was the Birmingham Quarterback Club, one of these booster events, and was asked about many different things. Asked about Miss Terry's win-loss record and how she's picking games better than him, but also asked about the state of Alabama football. And I haven't, maybe I've missed it. I haven't really heard him talk very much about Alabama. Well, he gave some interesting comments. I'll be transparent. Certainly nothing vicious or mean-spirited or angry. But producer Matt, throw up on the screen what Nick Saban had to say about the state of Bama football. He said, the most important thing all of us can do as fans for Alabama is to be supportive. Support the program, support the players, support the coaches. That will enhance us to be able to have the best solution and transition, because it's always a difficult transition when you have a fairly successful program. Stay focused on what you have to do and try to make the team better. I'm not going to get in a position to judge anybody. I'm a fan now. I want the team to do well, and I want our fans to support the team the best they can. So that was what Nick Saban had to say about the state of Alabama football. I want to dive in. Let me start by saying this. First of all, I commend him. He's in a tough spot. You know he's going to be asked about it. You know the program that he left behind is not living up to the standard that he set, okay? But I thought he said everything right. Didn't throw anybody on the bus, didn't blame the players, didn't blame the coaches. I'm a fan. I want to support things. And before we even get into the quotes, let me add 2 little kind of quick caveats to what Nick Saban said, okay? One, I think even Nick Saban would admit this is a new era. I didn't figure it out. It's the reason that I'm no longer coaching college football is because I couldn't totally figure out this era, NIL, portal, player movement. And so even Nick Saban would admit, nobody has all the answers right now. Kirby Smart doesn't. Steve Sarkisian doesn't. I don't. Kalen DeBoer doesn't. Whatever. And I'll also say before I get into this, I don't think because Alabama has lost 2 of 3 that Kalen DeBoer is the worst coach that's ever been in the SEC, okay? I think he's a really good coach. Do think, if there's certain things that he can get back on track, do think he can be successful there, do think he can win at the highest level there. And obviously in a 12-team playoff era, 1 loss, even 2, isn't going to eliminate you from anything. I want to welcome a new sponsor to the Aaron Torres pod, BlueChew. Fellas, remember back in the day when you were always ready to go? Well, things change. You got a lot on your mind. Your football team isn't very good. Well, here's the good news. That's where BlueChew comes in. BlueChew is an online service that delivers the same active ingredients as Viagra, Cialis, and Levitra, but at a fraction of the cost and in chewable form. To get started, it's so easy. Just go to BlueChew.com, consult with one of their licensed medical providers, and once you're approved, you'll receive your prescription within days. The best part, it's all done online. No awkward trip to the doctors, no waiting at the pharmacy, no stink eyes, no raised eyebrows, nothing. Thing is, though, I know a lot of you are probably wondering, Torres, does it actually work? Do you think I need to try it? Well, here's the deal. Try it for a month for free, and I think there will be no turning back, all right? You'll love it. Your partner is going to love it. Your football team may stink, but you'll be rocking like the 85 Bears between the sheets. So go ahead, try it out, and here is the great news. We have a special offer for listeners of the Aaron Torres pod. You can try Blue Chew for free when you use the code Torres at checkout. All you got to do is pay $5 in shipping. Go to BlueChew.com, use promo code Torres at checkout. You get Blue Chew for free for a free month, and you only have to pay $5 shipping. Again, visit BlueChew.com for more details and important safety information. Thank you to Blue Chew for sponsoring the Aaron Torres podcast. But at the same time, where I do think it does get interesting is kind of just the state of the program as a whole. And I would be curious, right? Because Nick Saban said all the right things. I'm a fan now, blah, 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 this and that. But if you gave him some truth serum, and he doesn't drink alcohol, so you can't ply him with tequila or vodka or whatever, I'd be curious what he'd really say. Because to me, what has been most disappointing about Alabama, I would suspect, is the most disappointing thing in his eyes as well. Not that Alabama's struggling on the field. Not that they've lost 2 of 3. But that the standard that Nick Saban set appears to be disappearing by the minute. And to me, that's really the only thing that, in my opinion, has been disappointing about the Kalen DeBoer era. Because at the end of the day, listen, I was very excited about this hire. I talked about it a lot in January, February as we got in, out of the hire. We talked about every recruiting move, whatever. And so now all of a sudden everyone's like, oh, Torres, you're turning on Kalen DeBoer. I'm not turning on Kalen DeBoer. But what I am saying is that what made Alabama different, we talked about this on Sunday's show, it wasn't just the talent on the field. It wasn't the scheme. It wasn't the coaching staffs, although Nick Saban had some great ones. It was that they held themselves to a higher standard and the highest standard that you could possibly have. We talked about it. It was called the process, right? It was called the process. And what was amazing about the process, it was the simplest ethos that you could have as a program. It was take care of the little things and the big things will take care of themselves. The best example, and we didn't talk about it on Sunday, but go back to that 2012 national championship game. That was the year Alabama was playing Notre Dame, the famous, Brent Musburger calling out and referencing, let's just put it that way delicately, A.J. McCarron's girlfriend in the stands. But what is the memorable, iconic moment about that game if you're an Alabama fan? Besides the fact that you just steamrolled, literally and figuratively, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. It was late in the game. Alabama was up, comfortable lead. No way they could blow it. I want to say it was maybe 42-7. I think that was the final score. Minute or two left in the game. And what ends up happening? Something happens. A.J. McCarron has to call a timeout. And the second that A.J. McCarron calls the timeout, he starts screaming at his center, because the center basically sat there and said, the two of them basically are screaming at each other, trying to figure out what the situation is. It sounds like we have a little bit of technical audio difficulties. I apologize if that's the case. We'll try to figure it out as best we can. But to go back to what I just said, with A.J. McCarron, he's screaming at his center. I believe it was Barrett Jones, but that was the standard. It was whatever is going on. This isn't good enough. You need to be better. I need to be better. I don't care if we're up 35 points in a national championship game. This is unacceptable. Well, fast forward to now and what we see from the Alabama Crimson Tide. It's frustrating. It's disappointing. And again, it's not the on the field football stuff. What is it? It's all of the other little things that are creeping into this program. It's the fact that in the biggest moment of the game on Saturday, one of their players, Kendrick Law, unsportsmanlike conduct penalty. That 4th and 7 became 4th and 22. You could criticize Kalen DeBoer for going for it, but in his head, he's thinking he's going for 4th and 7. Now it's 4th and 22. You think about whatever. You think about the Malachi Moore play at Vanderbilt. He kicks the football. You think about the fact, by the way, other people have sent me other stuff since Saturday. You have the coaching staff, not everybody, but 1 or 2 members of the staff walking into Neyland Stadium with cigars in their mouths. What are we doing? It's the fact that Alabama is 128th nationally in penalty yardage. And so with Nick Saban, he said all the right things, but how can he not be frustrated? Because it's ultimately mostly the same guy. I don't want to say mostly because I know a lot of players left, a lot of players came in, but it doesn't change the fact who are the leaders on this team. Jalen Milroe was there last year. Tyler Booker was there last year. Jahad Campbell, linebacker, was there last year. The leaders on this team are the players that were in that locker room a year ago. And so, yeah, some of it falls on Kalen DeBoer. Some of it falls on those leaders, but it is unacceptable the manner in which this team is behaving on and off the field. And I think that is where Nick Saban would have his most frustration, is the fact that everything he built, it does not look the same. It does not feel the same. You cannot deny it. And for people, by the way, because this is going to be in the comment section, Saban didn't have it figured out either. Torres, you just said that. They were really Listen, 2 years ago was the most disappointing year of Nick Saban's career. Bryce Young, Will Anderson, number 1, number 3 picks in the draft, and they end up losing 2 games and don't make the playoff. Counter to that, though, last year was probably Nick Saban's best year. You win the SEC, 0 SEC losses, you beat Georgia, and he did an amazing job. So don't tell me that it can't be done, especially with this program. So I'll be curious if Nick Saban expands on these comments. I don't watch a ton of game day on Saturday mornings, but would love to hear what he has to say, because I think, again, the frustration isn't in the losses themselves. It's in the fact that the standard that he set, the standard, by the way, that his players helped him set, right? We talk about it all the time. The players are the ones in the locker room. The players are the ones in those summer workouts where the coaching staff can't be. Some of this is on Jalen Milroe. Some of it's on the guys we mentioned, Jahad Campbell, Tyler Booker, whoever those guys are that are back from a year ago. So it's disappointing. If I'm Saban, I'm furious watching this. Mostly just disappointed, though. But it's got to get solved in a hurry. Now, the good thing, I'll say this. Bama's a 13.5-point favorite against Missouri this week. I was actually surprised by that number. Maybe it says a little bit about Missouri maybe not being as good as we thought. I think it also says that Bama maybe is in a spot where they bounce back. And what it really says is they're still talented enough to reach their ceiling this season. So we'll see what happens. Doesn't mean that DeBoer is the worst coach that's ever walked the face of the earth, but Bama fans are frustrated with how this program is acting and behaving. I don't blame them one bit. And I'd be curious what Nick Saban would have to say about that.